Blog Talk Radio.
Yo, Bantan.
¿Cuál anda, Pelencho?
¿Qué es lo que está sonando por ahí?
Un par de vainas y que.
Acabo de llegar a mi país.
Suave, oye esa vaina.
Acabo de llegar a mi país. Uy, y que es lo que yo escucho por ahí. Ey, rapeadores que están pegados, tan sonados. ¿Cómo va a ser? Con puro ritmo baiteado. Acabo de llegar a mi país. Uy, y que es lo que yo escucho por ahí. Ey, rapeadores que están pegados, tan sonados. ¿Cómo va a ser? Con puro ritmo baiteado.
Ellos son pura copia, siempre fotocopia. El mismo ringtone, pero desde otro Nokia. Enredando a la gente con esa basofia. Así que flow de paquete y directo de copia. A mí no me interesa de dónde tu flow, así que deja la pereza. Ay, mamá, escribí que eso da de tristeza. A estas alturas son pura copia y no son inéditos. Quieren ranking y sin méritos. No tienen referencia ni créditos y no pueden salir del crédito. No son profesionales porque su ritmo lo pagan en Alex. Son pura copia, no son originales. Dices que Bantan cantando las reales, haciendo los reales.
Acabo de llegar a mi país, uy, y que es lo que yo escucho por ahí. Ey, rapeadores que están pegados, tan sonados. ¿Cómo va a ser? Con puro ritmo baiteado. Acabo de llegar a mi país, uy, y que es lo que yo escucho por ahí. Ey, rapeadores que están pegados, tan sonados. ¿Cómo va a ser? Con puro ritmo baiteado. Se denominan artistas. Será de tercera clase, cuarta o quinta. Mejor compré revistas para ver si por fin pueden distraer su vista. Se denominan artistas. Será de tercera clase, cuarta o quinta. Mejor compré revistas para ver si por fin pueden distraer su vista. Esto no es fake, tampoco bullet. Y lo que escuchas es real reggae. Tú sabes cuál es la que es. Y no escuchas la mic y no pasa con la plena red. Así me dice mi entrenador cada vez que estamos en el ring tirando trompón. Ser tú mismo es lo mejor. Nada de copia, eso es poca. Acabo de llegar a mi país. Uy, y que es lo que yo escucho por ahí. Ey, rapeadores que están pegados, tan sonados. ¿Cómo va a ser? Con puro ritmo baiteado. Acabo de llegar a mi país. Uy, y que es lo que yo escucho por ahí. Ey, rapeadores que están pegados, tan sonados. ¿Cómo va a ser? Con puro ritmo baiteado.
Que son copiones, hemos dicho ladrones. Lo mejor pero en clones. No sacan sus sones, por eso copian canciones y le faltan canzones. Que si son campeones, me han dicho ladrones. Lo mejor pero en clones. No sacan sus sones, por eso copian canciones y le faltan canzones. Ellos son pura copia, siempre fotocopia. El mismo ringtone pero desde otro Nokia. Enredando a la gente con esa basofia. Así que flow de paquete y directo de copia. Copia, a mí no me interesa de dónde tu flow, así que deja la pereza. Ay, mamá, escribí que eso da de tristeza. A estas alturas
acabo de llegar a mi país, uy, y que es lo que yo escucho por ahí. Ey, rapeador.
All right, welcome to the Jeff Mayweather radio show, brought to you as always by Pro Boxing Insider. Jeff will be joining us momentarily, and tonight we are pleased to have a very special guest with us tonight, Maureen Shea. Maureen, are you there tonight? Are you there, Mo? Whoops, I got to click you on.
Can you hear me?
There you go. All right, how you doing tonight, Mo?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
Oh, it's been an absolutely crazy day. I kind of have my computer half hooked up here. We're moving, and it's absolutely crazy. Jeff will be on here in a few seconds, and we'll welcome him on. Great to have you. Yeah, we'll get Jeff on here in just a second, and then we'll go over the latest events here. Get people to know you a little bit about you. Oh, there he is. Let me click him on right here, and there is the star of the show, Jeff Mayweather. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
All right, you forget about us?
Yeah, sorry.
What's that?
I said, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had a little time change there, and you probably were dozing off. Can you hear me, Jeff?
Yes, I hear you. I'm at a party.
Yeah, so you got a party going on there?
I'm party, man.
All right. Well,
Hey,
we're joined,
Jeff, how
Jeff.
are
I
you?
brought her on. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, we got Maureen Shea joined us, Jeff. She's on with us right now.
Hi, Jeff. How
Hi.
are you?
I'm fine. And yourself?
Very good, very good. Happy to be
All right,
on.
well, yeah. All right, well, first things first, let's we're going to go ahead and talk about Maureen a little bit. For those that don't know her, Maureen Shea, known a little bit as the real $1 Million Baby. So why don't you explain, Maureen, a little bit how you came across that name? I know obviously it came from the work on the movie. So let the folks know a little bit about how you got the name.
Well, it's really funny because I just went over the story the other day with somebody with the women in the boxing in the Olympics now. You know, I was an amateur, and I only had 12 amateur fights. I started boxing, competing it when I was 21, and I turned pro when I was 24. But during that time, Hilary Swank had come to Gleason's gym when I was training in Brooklyn, when I was training with Hector Roca, and she started training with Hector for the movie. And Hector paired me with her, and I was her primary sparring partner to get her ready in preparations for the movie. And I spent, a significant amount of time with her, and she got to know me, and I shared a lot of my life, and she studied me for the character, and, just a lot about just getting to know more about women's boxing, not just myself, but she spoke to other women, but, we spent most of the time together. So when I turned pro, I think it was my 4th pro fight. It's funny, I never really had a fight name. I'm from the Bronx, New York, so people calling me the Bronx Bombshell, kind of, monograph after Alex Ramos, the Bronx Bomber. So I was fighting in San Antonio, Texas, and I was on Evander Holyfield's undercard, and he was fighting Fresno Kendo. And they announced me at the weigh-ins as the real $1 Million Baby, and the name stuck. So that's what people knew me as. But yeah, I was the primary sparring partner for Hilary for that movie, and just spent a lot of time with her, and honored to be a part of an amazing film.
Jeff has worked a little bit in movies too, as far as the boxing aspect. What's the difference between actually sparring and then when you're sparring with someone like Hilary, who you obviously have to take a little easy on her?
Well, I always had a control to kind of I knew I spar with different types of people, and I applied pressure. Jeff, how it is when you're in there and you're working. When somebody's hitting you, if I hit her back and I hurt her, what's that going to do for me? We're working on something. So I worked on my moves, certain things I was working for, because I was fighting in the Golden Gloves in New York. So I said, okay, she's going to throw a bunch of punches at me. I'm just going to work on my defense, work on my countering. But to make her feel the fight, I would pressure her a little bit.
Now, and I also read that this will be kind of a source of contention between you two here. You worked quite a bit, I guess, sparring with Victor Ortiz. What are your thoughts of him as a fighter?
Well, I worked I'm out of the same camp as Victor. As a fighter, I think Victor's he's a tough kid. He's really, when I first met him, I wasn't sure because I trained in Gleason's, and I had tons of world champions that I've met. I've trained around a lot of the guys, and I just watch. I just like to sit back and observe and see how they are. Victor was so welcoming, so humble, such a nice guy, respectful, and just very welcoming. And, I see how he trains. He trains very, very hard. There's almost he's got this youthfulness about him. Even in the gym, he has fun. He loves what he does. But that youthfulness is still there. Even at 25, 26 years old, it's nice to see that. But I think Victor he's a good fighter. I think that, for me personally, I feel like it's the emotional. In there. Something's going on in there in his head when he's fighting, in my opinion. I think when he's got it together, he's solid. But then something happens, whether it's frustration, whether it's, I don't know what it is, but, a lot of stuff, as a fighter, and Jeff knows, a lot of stuff's going on in your head when you're in a fight. You're thinking a trillion thoughts at one time. And if something's unsettling, you can react to it. And sometimes in the recent fights with Victor, from what I've seen, I wonder if there's something unsettling with him mentally, unsettling with his psychological right now. Because in the gym, I don't see it. I'll be honest, I don't see it. But when you're under that pressure and in that ring, and that's not to say he's not a great champion, and not that he's not going to be a champion again. This is part of the fight. People don't realize that the fighting in the ring is just one of the fights. The main fight is outside of the ring, what you go through. Even in your sleep as fighters, we fight in our sleep. You know, we have so much going on, and trying to compose all of that, to enter that squared circle, to get in there and just put everything together in front of millions of people with the amount of added pressure. You know, obviously that's the stage that we've stepped up to, and that's a responsibility that we have, and we're ready for it. But we're human, and people forget about that. So you have to learn to battle that, conquer that, and be able to maintain that balance in the ring when you're fighting. And I'm sure Victor's looking to try to work on that.
Now, Jeff, you know, you've been pretty critical of the past about, you know, Victor, not necessarily about his skills, but the same thing like Mo was saying, you know, about his, you know, maybe his willingness to fight or the mental aspect of it. You know, do you agree with what she said? And do you think there's anything that he can do, you know, if you were training him, what you would instruct him to do to help him maybe get past the mental aspect as opposed to the physical?
Well, I mean, I think that she hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, as a fighter, you know, you do have a lot of mental things going on inside your head. And with Victor, I mean, it just seems like, to me, at certain points in the fight, he just fall apart. And, you know, and I don't know if anybody can fix that, you know. But, I mean, because, you know, I've seen it in, you know, at least 3 fights. And, you know, and the other thing that I see from him that, and it kind of, you know, it kind of amazes me, but in a wrong way. I mean, when Victor loses, he looks as though he's the happiest person in the world that just lost. You know, I don't understand that. I mean, he did the same thing with Madonna. He did the same thing with Floyd. Same thing with, you know, with this last fight. You know, it was like, oh, okay, you know. And I mean, and even more so, you know, I mean, and then like you said, the mental aspect of it. Just like with after the fight was over with Floyd in the post-fight conference. I mean, I don't even know what he's talking about. He's talking about, yeah, Floyd needs me. Floyd needs to fight me again. I'm the money. I'm the person that everybody wants to see. Yeah, you something must have got rattled in your brain. You know, that has nothing to do with boxing. You know, but like I said, I mean, to me, he has quit in him. You know, I mean, he's shown it. He's shown it more than once. Even in this fight, you're winning. If you're winning, I don't care. Just stay on your bicycle, do what you got to do to survive. You know, you don't necessarily have to take no punches. You know, you don't even necessarily have to even throw any punches. He was so far ahead that all he had to do was dance around for 3 rounds. You know, and if any other fighter, you know, they would, you know, the referee would have to stop the fight. I have a question for you,
Jeff. I have a quick question regarding that. I have a question for you regarding that, because I've been through this myself in a fight where I just wonder what his corner, what his trainer was, what Danny Garcia was telling him to do. Now, I've been in fights where my trainer, when I was training with Hector Roca, he was giving me instruction, and I disagreed with his instruction, but I felt like, and but I did what he told me to do, and I don't necessarily feel it was right. At what point should a fighter decide not to listen to the corner and to do instinctually what they feel in there, or should that be automatic?
No, I mean, I think that's automatic. I think that's like autopilot, you know, because, I mean, the one thing is this. In a situation like that, automatically, even if your corner doesn't tell you, but I can understand his corner not telling him, basically, to stay away, you got to fight one, you know. But, I mean, even if you just occasionally throwing a jab or something like that, because, I mean, he was so far ahead that you don't quit. You quit at that point. I mean, and it was like, quitting for him was like, it was like second nature. And that's one thing I know in life is this. Once you quit, it becomes easy. It becomes easy and easy and easy. I mean, because I even had a time in my life, I remember, this is when I was in high school. I was playing basketball. And, no, I wasn't even in high school. I was in middle school. And I quit the basketball team. And my coach told me, he said, why'd you quit? I said, because I didn't feel like I was getting treated fair. He said, you know what? You're going to become a quitter for the rest of your life. I didn't know what he was talking about at that time because it didn't matter. That was just one thing that I decided to quit. And you know, and I never thought about it again. But the next time another coach, scolded me, I quit. And the next time, I quit. It became so easy for me to quit because I would rather just quit.
It became comfortable.
It
became comfortable.
Yeah. Right. It became my easy way out because it was like this. Well, I'm not going to play by your rules. If you can't confine with my rules, I don't need to be here anyway. And that became a part of my life until I got to a point where, when I was in high school, it just became so easy for me to quit. And then, of course, by the time I got to when I was in college, that whole concept of quitting and stuff, I understood it and I understood the magnitude of it. So never again that happened for me.
Jeff, you had your brothers around at this time. Obviously you guys were all really competitive. So how did they react to your quitting?
No, it didn't matter because I was in school. I quit school activities. I never quit in boxing ever.
Well, I know that, but did they give you a hard time for quitting in general? I mean, they were your bigger brothers, so I didn't know if they, maybe give you some advice or how they reacted to it.
No, because they never even participated in school sports. So
yeah. It's funny, Jeff. I can relate to that in a funny way. I played a million different sports, and I quit every sport too when I was in grammar school and high school. And I got kicked out of high school, but I quit everything. But I never quit in boxing. Boxing is the only sport I never quit in.
And you know what? And what you're saying is true. That's the exact thing for me because I was in a fight where I had 2 broke hands, and I continued to fight. To the end. Because I was winning the fight, but I was in the guy's backyard. I was defending my title. So basically, it was a situation where, I know that I won the first 6 rounds easy, but I ended up losing the fight in a majority decision, which, it was kind of hard anyway to beat the guy in his hometown, but I wasn't going to give up my title by...
It was, you did what you did for you, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't going to
No, go ahead, Jeff. Finish.
No, I just said I wasn't going to give up my title by quitting.
Right. Now, Maureen, kind of on the quitting theme here, it's really hard being a woman in boxing. Obviously you got a little bit of a boost from the million dollar baby thing, but explain this a little bit. What's it like being in a sport where you just you continually strive to get recognized and get appreciated for what you do? All that hard hours you put in, and still it's really really hard for women, to really get a foothold and get respected in the boxing world.
I try to approach everything with a positive, with a positive. And I never looked at myself for a long. Even now with the Olympics, obviously, but I never looked at myself as a woman in boxing. I said, you know what? I'm just like everybody else. I've seen some guys in the gym. I'm like, I train harder than them. I spar harder than them. I have better technique than some of them. I've seen them quit. I never quit. I fought with a deviated septum. All these other things, and I'm like, there's no difference between me and him. So that's how I looked at myself. The problem I see, and I actually just came across an article that actually infuriated me, and I very rarely get emotional. I'm an emotional person, but I learned in getting older and trying to be more mature, I learned to step back and just, look at something and not react right away because I reacted all the time when I was a kid. That's why I got kicked out of high school, fights in the street, my family, whatever, getting kicked out of the house because I reacted emotionally to everything. Now, in this situation, this writer wrote an article about the women in the Olympics, and it was a well-written article about the women. It was great, but then he went on to say how the women professionals are considered a carnival and a sideshow, and they were considered. And now these women in the Olympics are real athletes, how they're striving for something where there's no monetary gain, and how they're educated, and they're putting their lives out there and sacrificing. And in my opinion, the article came across as very ignorant, what he wrote, because I felt this individual did not do his research, and I was just infuriated. And I actually sent him a message on Twitter. I said I'd love to sit down with him and better inform him about women's professional boxing because I have a degree. A BA in English. I've sacrificed. I moved 3,000 miles away to chase my dream and to pursue something. And in the finances that women gain in the pros is a joke. is a joke. So if we're chasing the money, there's no money to be made. I can do anything else in this world if I wanted to. I gave up a very well-paying job because I love boxing, and I have something that I'm not done with, and I want to continue doing what I'm doing until God lets me know, okay, Maureen, it's time. And I will live the way that I'm living, sacrificing, making the adjustments until that day comes when I can say, okay, I'm done. You know, I don't know when that's going to be. My problem is with the difficulty lies with the media. The thing is that the media, I mean, it's great. We have our boxing shows. We have our boxing channels. And I love to get on. I love to talk to the press. I got tons of press with $1 Million Baby. I was an amateur at the time. And, you know, that was great. But that was because the press, it was a story. So they wanted to follow it. I feel some of the promoters out there don't know how to promote a woman. They don't know how to do it. When I fought on Top Rank's card with Bob Arum, we were talking, you know, and he had me at the press conferences, and Miguel Cotto, I addressed the media in English and in Spanish. The same media that was there interviewing Cotto stayed and interviewed me. Now, that was the boxing media. It was great. Now these promoters put these fighters on these other platforms in Hollywood. They send them to these different shows. They have them doing modeling stuff. They have them doing all these different things. They won't make that investment with the females, and I don't understand why, when it's a low-risk investment, in my opinion. And I think that, you know, I don't know why there's such a black eye on it. You know, it's like you have educated women out there. You have women that can fight, that have skill. I mean, every time I fought, and I'm not tooting my own horn here, but every time I fought, and I can have my fans call in, I've always given a great show. And they've left like, that was the fight of the night. That was the fight of the night. Wow. And it's usually the shock value because they meet me, they hear me speak, they're like, wow, you don't look like a fighter. Then they see me fight, and they're like, you don't fight like a girl. I said, yes, I do. It's just you can't actually admit that a female actually fights like this. It's a skill. I'm an athlete. That's what it is.
So do you think someone like Marlon Esparza, who's getting a ton of, you know, national attention here with the women being Olympics, she's doing the McDonald's commercials, cover girl or whatever, do you think that's something that will have a positive effect on women's boxing, or do you think maybe that's, you know, like kind of like most Olympics deals, you know, it'll be real hot for a couple months and it'll kind of, you know, kind of drift away?
I think it's great for Marlene. I think it's wonderful. I think it depends what you're going to do with that. I think, you know, first of all, it's amateur boxing. And people need to understand, people are so, like, some people don't know that in the regular everyday, you know, everyday person who isn't really familiar with boxing, especially the women, they'll see an empowering commercial like that with Marlene, and they're like, wow, and then they'll meet somebody like me and say, oh, but how come you're not in the Olympics? And I'm like, because I'm a pro. Well, what does that mean? Well, it's a totally different sport, you know, like it's totally different, you know, and they're like, well, how many rounds do you fight? Oh, is it like the guys? I've educated so many fans that became fans of me because I've done speaking engagements and I've crossed over for myself, you know, with my team and gone into other avenues, especially with $1 Million Baby, you know, and I've educated a lot of people on women's boxing to know that it's the same as the men, you know, we just fight 2-minute rounds, you know, and they're open to it. So hopefully, see, when articles are written like this one that I was talking about, when they're written like that, it bothers me because it's like, okay, thanks. So what are you trying to say? You know, educate yourself, do your research, figure things out before you go and write something like that, because the people reading these articles are regular, everyday people that aren't necessarily boxing people or boxing fans or really understand the sport. And now you have an individual that's not even explaining the difference between professionals and amateurs. Basically what he's saying is that it's a carnival and a sideshow. And that's like, that doesn't help. That doesn't help me. Right. It makes my job harder because now I have to go and I have to be the big mouth that I am and speak the way I'm speaking right now.
I was say you're not shy, that's for sure. Jeff, you trained you know, Melissa Littlejohn. You know, she's a beast in the gym. You know, you're around Jessica Rakoczy, Layla McCarter a little bit. You know, what are your thoughts on the women's sport? Anything you think they can do to gain recognition, or is it just something that you think maybe, you know, culture, you know, a sport that's dominated by male viewers are just never going to embrace the women going at it?
Well, I think that, you know, that them being in the Olympics will empower the sport, because I think that now there's going to actually be promoters that are going to be looking for those female fighters that happen to maybe medal or even look good in the Olympics. And I think that that's imperative for the sport of women's boxing, because one thing about it is this. Women's boxing was basically, at one point in time, predicated on the names of the former champions who happened to have daughters. And that's that's when women boxing was at its highest. And it seemed like everybody just basically departed the sport almost simultaneously. So women boxing it was almost like it became non-existent, because there was a time when women boxing was almost on every card at that time. They would put a woman, as a show fight, or as, and a lot of times, just like she said, a lot of times the woman's fight would actually be the fight of the night, because they got a chance to showcase their ability, and like you said, sometimes it's shock value, because automatically, just because of the fact that it's a woman, people don't think that they can deliver, their punches and, their technique the same way a man can, but they can if they're, if they're well trained, and they make the same sacrifices we do. But it's just that, like I said, at that point in time, that's when women boxing was at its highest, because they had name value. You had where you have a Layla Ali, you have a Frida Foreman, you have a Joe Frazier's daughter, and Archie Moore's daughter, Duran's daughter, everybody just coming out the woodwork, and basically they're really making a name off their father's name, but that's good enough, because now they got something to attach it to. And maybe because that person is fighting, maybe their father will be in the audience, and that adds to it as well. So, but, like I said, then it seemed like all of a sudden women's boxing just basically pretty much just died in the United States, but it picked up over in Europe. Now, in Europe... And
Mexico, Jeff. Big time in Mexico.
Yeah, that's right, and in Mexico. But, hopefully now, with the Olympics, it might not happen after this first Olympics, but I think that women's boxing is going to be on the rise again. Because these women now... I'm sorry?
I was going to say, I can't believe how fast this half hour went. This is the fastest half hour I think we've ever had. We just got a minute left, and I'm sorry to cut it short on that. But, Maureen, go ahead and tell us, you got a fight lined up here, and where the folks can follow you, and all that kind of good stuff.
Well, actually, we're working on a date right now in September, and everybody, I don't have a date right now. I'm waiting on that. I should get confirmation this week, but I'll definitely be tweeting about that. So, everybody can follow me on Twitter, Maureen Shea. I'm on Instagram, Maureen_Shea, and my Facebook, you can subscribe to my personal page. My fan base page hasn't been updated, but I run everything from my personal page. And, I love, and the fans have any questions, because I just recently tweeted something. I said, if anybody wants to tweet me a question about women's professional boxing, if you need any insight or anything, let me know. Even the amateurs, I have a lot of, I've been in this sport for 12 years, and I got a little bit of experience, and I'm welcome to any questions or comments that anybody wants to make.
Yeah, you're great at that. You definitely respond to all your tweets. So we really appreciate having you, Alex. I can't believe how fast this show went. But anyway, again, thanks, Maureen. Look forward to your fight, and we'll keep the folks updated on Pro Boxing Insider. And, Jeff, we appreciate you as well, and we will talk to you guys again next week. Anything else to add real quick? Anybody?
Jeff, I just want to say it's great talking to you. I think me and Jeff can sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk for about 5 hours.
Sounds like a date.
One day I'll have to get out to Vegas, and we'll have to do that for sure.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, guys, have a great night. God bless.
All right, you too. Thanks, Mom.
Bye-bye.
Jeff.
Bye.
Uy, y que lo que yo escucho por ahí, rapeadores que están pegados, tan sonados, como va a ser con puro ritmo baiteado. Acabo de llegar a mi país, uy, y que lo que yo escucho por ahí.